We're live. What's your link? Alright, recall from Monday that this is the drawing that you downloaded off of D2L. This is assignment number 2, VBEL, drawing file. And I talked about inserting the title block on Monday at a scale factor of 4. That's where the lecture went a little goofy. I got my brain latched onto that it was 1/4 of an inch equals a foot, and we had to get that straightened out. So the drawing scale is 1/4 inch equals an inch, which is a scale factor of 4. Is everybody clear on that? Okay. That means that I have to do some scaling if I bring the title block in and insert it into the drawing, which I did on Monday. Here's an alternate path to put a title block into a drawing and maybe be not quite so confusing. So what I want to do is go through the dimension style and show the setup on that, to make sure you're clear on that, and then take you into the leader style and show you what you can do with a leader style to get the arrow and the line that will attach to the item balloons. Okay, does that make sense for everybody? Alright. Alright, under dimension style, your requirement was to create a dimension style called Cadd 255 dim. And under lines, the extend beyond dimension lines was 0.09. Everything else, there was no changes on anything else in the dimension style. Symbols and arrows, close filled, 0.15 for size of the arrowheads. No other changes on there. If you were doing a lot of dimensioning that had circles and arcs, more circles than arcs, then you would want to change this to be a line. But there's 2 dimensions on the assembly drawing. A lot of times assembly drawings have very minimal dimensioning to them, because the detail parts are the ones that get dimensioned, and basically everything fits together in the assembly anyway. And assembly drawings lots of times only have locational dimensions, like how far in from the end of a shaft is a pulley, or how far apart are the pulleys center to start with. And there's only 2 dimensions on this drawing. So that is not all that critical of a point in the dimension style. And then under text, you are to create a text style named Cadd 255 text with Arial font and bold font styles. So let me show you that real quick. You can always go in and check your text styles by using the 3-dot button over here in AutoCAD next to the line that says the text name. So I've got Arial, and I have bold font style in my text style. That makes everything great. And then the height of the text is 0.10 in the dimensioning style. And then when I go to the Fit tab, under, let me get my little pointer here. Under the scale for dimension features, which is the extend beyond dimension line figure of the 0.09, the height of the text 0.1, the arrowhead size 0.15. This overall scale of 4 matches the scale factor of my drawing scale. 1/4 inch equals an inch is a scale factor of 4, and if I put this into my dimension style, then that factors all of the little fractions that you see, or the decimals that you see in the dimensioning style, and makes it the appropriate size when you place it into the drawing. It's pretty easy that way. Okay. Primary units. For this particular project, the default when you start up and work with AutoCAD is decimals, and usually it's 4 decimal place precision. This is not a very precise measurement of the distance between the centers of the shafts, or how far in that the pulley goes from the end of the shaft. So I can use fractions. I'm going to pay somebody a lot less to do fractional dimensions and putting things together than I would if I had decimals. It's just a matter of cost more than anything else. So fractions, the precision of the fraction should probably be a little less than 1/4 of an inch, because I might have a 32nd of an inch fractional dimension, and I would never see it if the precision in my dimensioning style primary units is set at 1/4 of an inch. So I'd come in here and I'd set that down to most likely a 64th of an inch precision in my dimensioning style, and then keep my fraction format as horizontal, which makes it numerator above the denominator, which is ANSI standard for mechanical type dimensioning in AutoCAD. Questions? Pretty straightforward, just kind of like boom, 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 boom. I don't think the dimensioning style requirement sheet said anything about the fractions in here. That's a, the dimensioning style was a generalized catch-all for most any kind of a project. And then here you come in and you personalize it or make it appropriate for whatever that you're working on drawing-wise. All right. I'm going to OK this and close this out. Noticing that as I close out, the current dimensioning style is CAD 255 dim, which is what I want it to be.
Me.
Stop printing, please.
Okay.
All right. Oops. What is that? Come on. I gotta raise that up a little higher so you can actually see my command line, my ribbons up here. If you go to annotate ribbon, and in annotate ribbon, there's a panel in here called leaders, and there's an arrow off to the side of leaders, which will get you into your leader style manager dialog box that pops up. You need to make, don't stand in front of my camera. You need to make the leader style match the dimension style in the size of the arrowheads and the size of the text if you're going to do text. Now, here is what the leader style would be in this project that I would recommend that you use. That's going to get the leaders that you're going to use to do the item balloon callouts on your assembly drawing. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to grab the leader style, which went onto my other screen here. All right. So what I would do is I would use the standard leader style. You could put another name in there if you wanted to. You could make a new leader style, like you did with the dimension style, and you could call it, item balloon leader with arrow, or something like that. But at this particular point, this is the only one we're going to use in this particular assignment, and I just went in and modified it. All right, under the first tab, leader format, you want to come down here and make this the same size arrowhead, 0.15, as your dimension style. And close fill. That's the only thing I need to do on the leader format tab. Then I'll go to leader structure. By default, the leader structure starts out with automatically include the landing. If I want just an arrowhead and a straight line that's going to go and connect to my item balloon, I'm going to uncheck mark this automatically include landing option in here. And if you see the preview, that little horizontal landing figure went away. So all I want is an arrowhead with a line on it. And then over on content, before I move from there, under the scale, specify scale 4. This is going to match the scaling of leader features, the same as scaling the dimension features. So scale factor of 4. Matches my drawing scale, 1/4 inch equals an inch.
Mr. Truman, so therefore, if we bring our title block in, everything will be automatically be set?
No, it will not automatically be set.
So therefore, like I said, the title block to 4, the scale is to 4, right?
The title block is separate from your dimension style and your leader style. Okay, so it's separate things that you need to do. Now, if you remember from AutoCAD, once you set up a dimension style and you set up a leader style, you can go to Design Center and you can drag that into another drawing. You don't have to set it up every single time. And you can pull layers in. And you can pull text styles in. So you have that option as well. So, okay, under Content tab, by default, it starts off with mText, and you see all of these little parameters in here. Well, I'm not going to use text. I just want an arrowhead with a line. Lawrence.
Okay, I'm trying to keep up with you. How did you get to that screen right there?
I clicked on this little arrow right here.
Leaders? Okay.
When I had annotate ribbon up and the leader panel. Will give me my multi-leader style.
Okay, it says leader.
You go to annotation first.
Yeah, you have to go to annotation.
I'm there.
Then you go to the leader panel.
Yeah.
And you click on this little arrow that's pointing off at 45 degrees out here. And that should pop up your multi-leader style.
It didn't.
Type in leader.
And you can do M leader
Start
style,
typing in
yeah.
leader.
But the icons seem
Go down to
should
your
be
command.
faster.
Okay.
Go to your command
I
line
haven't used that AutoCAD in a long time.
and
All right.
leader.
No, you gotta go to annotate,
Oh.
then you gotta go to leader, and then it pops up.
Okay.
And then you're gonna modify. So I'm gonna put you right there on that.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm willing to set it up right back.
All right.
Title block.
Right.
No way to do it at the same time.
Just
So I'm gonna go up here, I'm gonna click on that arrow and go back to none.
mText.
context.
Lawrence, I can catch you up later.
Okay.
Okay, let me just keep going
Sure.
with this.
Yes.
And that gives me a line and an arrowhead. I'm done. And I'm gonna okay this and close out of there. Okay. Now let me go ahead and put a leader in here and then go on from there and go to the title block. Because I think once I show you the one time, which I did the other day on Monday, let me review it, I'll put one in and then use that leader to show where I'm going to point to on one of these objects that I want to identify. Okay? And it should then come out to look like this. Now, the theory is when you put item balloons onto a drawing to identify your bill of material, one of the theories is that you try to line them up horizontally, if you can, and you try to kind of line them up vertically. Now that doesn't always happen. It makes a pretty picture, but sometimes your boss doesn't really want you to spend all that much time making it pretty. He wants you to be functional. But that's when you have a little time, which you have here, you can hone your little skills and take a little bit of time to develop those kinds of practices and procedures. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use this number 1, and I'm going to point down here to this motor base, and then I would go in here and I would fill in this this title. But I'm going to show you a different alternative to filling in the fill material. All right. Now that means I have to scale factor. So one of the things that I want to make sure that I'm doing, one other thing that popped up in intermediate drafting is I got a lot of people going in here and setting this up to be the dimension layer in the annotate ribbon and the dimension panel. And that causes a bit of problem here and there. So I would prefer if you keep this as use current for the layer. And set the layer in your layer manager, not in your dimensioning panel. Which means I'm gonna go back to my home ribbon, and I'm gonna click on this layer property manager dialog icon and pull this out. And then let me review again, because I like to keep this open. So I just pull this down into my graphics area, and then I use this little auto hide button that's right here, and I click on that. And then when I pull the cursor out, it collapses, and when I bring the cursor back in, it opens up, and then I can set my layers up and do a lot of stuff on the fly here. Alright, so what I want to do is I want to make sure that my dimension line layer is current. Like, I can click in this little box twice and get the little check mark in there. That makes my dimension line layer current. And then up here in my layers, in my home ribbon, it shows me that I'm on the dimension layer. Item balloons would be classified as a dimension. I'm getting a little closer in here. Alright, just as a review, I got a fairly large object going on in here, drawing wise, and I have a scale factor of 4. My requirement was that the item balloons were 5/16 of an inch in diameter when you put them into the drawing. And again, if I do that, just 5/16 in here, this is what's going to happen. It will be incorrect. So if I use the circle command, take the center point, and put a diameter in here of 5/16, I get a little tiny circle in here. Because this is like 19-20 inches long here, and it would be like putting a 5/16 inch circle on the floor here and look at it in relationship to something that's 20 inches long. I need to up that by 4. I have to scale everything up by 4. And if you remember, I'm kind of doing this for the benefit of anybody that might be watching this on the video, or if you go back and watch the video. It makes it a little nicer if it's right here in the front, rather than off to the side. Alright, 5/16 E is a decimal equivalent of 0.3125. Alright? So I need this to be 0.3125 in diameter in relationship to the scale that my drawing is. So I'm going to take my 0.3125 and multiply it by my scale factor of 4, and that's going to give me a diameter of 1.25.
Yep.
If you use your calculator, that's what it comes out to be.
I did.
Okay, very good. I got it right. This time. I struggled with it for Monday. Alright, that means, and I'm just going to go ahead and put one in here. Center, I'm going to go D for diameter. I'm going to put in 1.25. And that's the size that it should be, not this size right here. You're all nodding. You're getting this. Everything's great. All's well with the world. Let me get rid of that guy. Alright. Did I talk about making this an annotated item balloon on Monday?
No.
I don't think so. I talked about it yesterday in my other class. So that's going to be my problem, is keeping track of what I'm saying in each section as we go along. I'll try to keep, you guys will keep me honest here. Alright, I would make this an annotated item balloon, which means I'm going to add an attribute to it by typing in ATTD, and what I get up here in my command line is ATTDEF for attribute definition, and I enter, and I get this dialog box that pops up. Well, the default is to lock the position, which means once the text goes in there, I can't manipulate it around. Now, it's got good points and it's got not so good points in doing that. I would tend to probably unlock the position of it. And then the tag, that's what's gonna appear on the screen with my item balloon. So I can use an alphabet definition in here, or I could put a number in here. And since I'm kind of dealing with item balloons, I'm gonna just put a number 1 in there for the tag. Down here, if someone else is gonna work on this drawing, I should probably put in some kind of prompt, because when the dialog box pops up you're gonna fill in information, you want somebody to be able to know what it is that you kind of did, and you enter in a little prompt. Sometimes it's kind of repetitive. And to make a difference, I take my cap locks off when I put in a prompt. So I might say, enter item number. I might say, enter item number in balloon. Something that's kind of descriptive about what it is that I want to have accomplished on that. And then the default, you could put something in there, but a lot of times I just leave the default empty. It kind of puts a default thing right there. All right, then we have to look at text settings. We have to look at the justification. We have to make sure that we have a text style, and we have to make sure that the height of the text is also scale factored. So I want 1/8 of an inch height letters in your item balloons. Item balloons is 5/16 of an inch in diameter. The number height is 1/8 of an inch. And if I multiply 1/8 of an inch, 0.125 by 4, I get 1/2 an inch for the height. So I'm gonna change these. I'm gonna make this middle. For my justification, I have a Cadd 255 text. I'm gonna come down here and change this to 0.40, because the height of the text, well, sorry, 0.5.
I was gonna say,
0.5. Because 1/8 of an inch multiplied by 4. Now I'm gonna unlock this, and I'm gonna specify on screen where the position of that number is gonna go. And when I click OK, then I come here to the center object snap of the circle, and I put that in its place.
So you have to do that with each, you do that with
Nope.
each one?
I'm only gonna do this one time. Now, I have added an attribute to this geometry, and now I'm gonna take the geometry and the attributed text, and I'm gonna make a block out of both of those items. So I'm gonna use the block command. And I'm gonna type B, enter. I'm gonna call this item balloon for the name of the block. I like to take this off from convert to block, which would convert the geometry to a block. Sometimes that adds a little problem area. And I usually just make the geometry, retain the geometry as geometry in my objects block. And then I'm gonna select objects. When I select objects, I'm gonna put a window around the circle and the number, which has been attributed. I'm gonna enter, and then I'm gonna pick a base point, and I'm gonna make the base point the center of the circle. And then I'm gonna click OK. And this may pop up. The block definition has changed. This is probably popping up on my drawing because I've done this a couple of times and then I erase it and it's kind of in its memory. More than likely it won't pop up, but if it does, usually redefining it's just fine. Okay, now for a second item balloon. So I've got like 10 or 11 items in my bill of material. If I want another item balloon, I'm not going to draw a circle. I'm not going to attribute text in there. I'm going to insert the block that is item balloon with the insert command. So I go enter. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to find the item balloon that I created. I'm going to specify on screen. I created it at the size appropriate to the scale of the drawing, so it's going to be a 1-to-1 insert. Not like the title block, if I was gonna insert the title block, that I'd have to insert it as a scale of 4. This one's just 1 to 1. I go, okay. I put this in here somewhere where I can point to item number 2. Now, if I wanna line these up horizontally, I'm gonna use my object snap tracking. I'm gonna kinda hover here at the center, and this will put it in line. Now, because it's attributed, I have the ability to put a different number in here. Well, if this is item number 2, I'm gonna, so see my little prompt? My prompt says, enter item number. And if someone else were working on this drawing, they would have that prompt as well. And I say, okay, and there it is. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, how many ever. And you know what? I'd probably take that block and I'd stick it, I'd use Design Center and I'd drag it, because you can drag blocks in from Design Center from other drawings. I'd probably bring that in as well. And I don't have to do it over again. All right, now the leader. Yes, Manuel.
It's possible to make a copy of the first balloon and edit for the second one.
You could copy the first one and you could modify the text in it.
It's possible?
Yeah, it's possible, but
Copy.
yeah,
It's
you
only change
can
the
copy them,
number.
but you've attributed it. It's probably not a great thing to do. I think I would just insert it and then change the number. Yeah, because it pops up a whole different dialog box. It's not just a text override situation. You have to change the attribute.
Right.
Yeah, it's a little more cumbersome that way.
So you saying basically we could bring in the circle and go to the multi-text and type it in?
I'm saying you create the circle and then you do an attribute definition, not multi-line text, not single-line text. You have to do an attribute definition to get this to work, so that it will change the number every time you ask for another item. Yeah. Okay.
What do you say about the name of the block definition? The name of the block definition?
I just called it item balloon.
Item balloon.
Yeah. I mean, it's fairly descriptive. Again, I might be the only one working on the drawing, so sometimes it doesn't really matter, but it might be some other person working on the drawing, so I kind of want to be fairly descriptive with what I'm doing. 10 years from now, I might not be there.
Right.
And somebody else might be pulling my drawings up and kind of like, what in the world did they do that for? Which I've said a few times for drawings that I've worked on. Why did they do it that way? And then I fix it. All right, back to annotate, ribbon, multi-leader. Specify the leader arrowhead location. So I'm going to come down here and find an object snap, maybe like this, and then I'm going to go back. Now, I would try to not do a vertical leader. Okay, I kind of got this balloon in the wrong place. So I'm going to put this out to the side a little bit. Actually, I'm going to escape out of here and move that number 1 over, because that really shouldn't be that way. So let me just move this guy over. More like about that. What happened? Oh, that's not a block there. Okay, so let me try that again. Leader, I'm going to point down here. What I tend to do is go to the center of the circle first, like that, and then I'll come back and I'll click on it to get the grip, and I'll grab that grip by just clicking on it when it turns red, and I'll come back here to the little intersection. Object snap, and because ANSI standards say that when I draw this leader, it should look like it's pointing right to the center of that balloon in relationship to the angle of the leader and the position of the balloon. So I click on the center and just pull it back a little bit, I'm done. So if I do that for number 2, I'm just going to make up something. Like if I wanted to go NEA is nearest object snap, and then I can place it anywhere along here. Again, I would go back here to the center of this. I just click on it, grab that grip, and bring it back to the edge of the circle. Nice and pretty and professional looking. It's a thing of beauty. I bring that in my portfolio to my interview, and I show them that I'm making assembly drawings, and they look at that and they go, wow, where'd you learn how to do that? Well, Mr. Truman's kinematics class, he taught me a lot of really good stuff. Yeah, you're hired. Well, you could always hope, huh? It'll work, maybe. Okay, there's item balloons. Now, let me talk for a few minutes about putting in the title block in a different mode than insert scale factor of 4 and position it in.
You say instead of that,
What?
you say you're gonna talk about something instead of that?
I'm gonna talk about a different method of putting the title block in. Rather than inserting it and then scaling it up by a factor of 4, I'm gonna put it in more at a 1-to-1 ratio. And then I have to make a title block available to you, and I gotta try to figure out where this thing is, where I hid it, but I think it's on my flash drive. Cause I did a little work to a title block. Okay, so I've got this in model space. And everything that I've talked about so far on Monday and today has been done in model space. And there's not a problem with doing stuff in model space, but there's also a thing called layout space, which is down here, layout 1 and layout 2 tabs. And I can do some things in layout and paper space. So if I go in and I click on layout tab 1, I get a little different look here on my drawing. I see some color, and I see a white background in here. This is a paper that I'm looking at. What I'm gonna do is go down to layout number 1, and I'm gonna right click on the tab. And I get a pop-up menu that pops up, and what I wanna look for is this thing called Page Setup Manager. And I wanna set up the page that I'm gonna print in AutoCAD. Alright, so I click on that, and I get a Page Setup Manager dialog box that pops up, and it's gonna be layout number 1. And I go in here and modify. And this pops up because I printed this off in other rooms. You're probably not gonna see anything, although you might. I just go, okay. So what I have to do is, if I were gonna plot this in a regular plot situation, is I need to set up the plotting device. So I go over here, and in this room, it's gonna be the Canon IPF 760, 750, sorry. And then I want the C size. I want borderless. I want 17 by 22 inch ANSI borderless paper size. That gives me just a little more room around the edges.
17 by 22 NCC border.
17 by 22 ANSI borderless. See, aren't you glad that I'm taping this so you can go back and look at all this?
Yeah.
Okay, now, if you were printing from model space, you'd have extents, and you'd have display, and you'd have window. We leave this on layout because we are gonna plot from our layout tab. And we're gonna plot at 1-to-1. If we're plotting from model space, I have to put this in as a scale factor of 4 when I plot. So for some people, the 1-to-1 aspect is a lot better than plotting it at a scale factor. All right, and you want to make sure that you're putting monochrome up here, and in layout, you want to check mark display plot styles. Otherwise, it will plot in color no matter what you do. Even though it's set monochrome, you'll still plot out in color. So we want to check mark that. That's a little different in model space. I'm going to say okay, and I'm going to close. Now, what I have is the equivalent of 16 inches by 21 inches for a paper size with my border and everything. This is a viewport, and I'm can look into the drawings here. Well, I want the viewport to be more in line with what the title block is. So I'm going to delete this viewport and have essentially a blank piece of paper in here to look at. And then we'll get back to the viewport here in a minute. So I'm gonna just click on that and delete it, and now I can't look back into my drawing right now. And down here in the status bar, it's showing that it's on paper space. So I'm looking at the piece of paper rather than my drawing. All right, so I'm gonna go back to the home ribbon and, or go into my properties. And I'm gonna come down here and I'm gonna see that I have a title block layer. See this title block layer in my layers that I have? I'm gonna make that current. And then I'm gonna get out of there and collapse that. And I'm gonna do an insert. And I'm gonna go out here and browse. You will not have this title block available to you yet. Alright, so I'm gonna have to make this available.
Also,
So I'm gonna go find my little title block here. I will put this up on D2L and make it available. So there's an NCC with bill of material, BOM, attributed file. I'm gonna open this up and I'm gonna check mark this and I'm gonna specify that it comes in at 000.
okay, I got a question. It's the only way that I can pull that, cause you have one, but it's in model space, the only way I can pull that, I have to be in model space to pull it? Cause you have one that's in your insert,
Yes,
okay, so,
that was to do it in model
yeah,
space.
can't do it here then,
You could, but this is a special title block.
okay,
It's special.
okay.
Yeah.
Therefore, you don't have that in
I
your-
made it special just for you, Cal.
Okay, good, I appreciate that.
And Lawrence.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's everybody else.
Help out here.
It's special for everybody. I just have to make sure that it's gonna be available to you.
Okay.
But I had to talk about it first. Okay. All right, everybody good so far? Are you at home watching? Drinking your coffee? All right. So, I went out and found it, and I'm gonna specify it on screen, and it's gonna come in at 1:1. No 4, no scale factory, 1:1. I go okay. And I attributed the ANSI BOM title block and put prompts in here. So enter assignment title, enter assignment drawing number, enter drawing scale, enter first name, initial and last, enter the month, day, and year. So I'm gonna put this into the title. So the title is supposed to be, and we're using all caps, V dash belt, I spelled this right. V belt, motor, drive, assembly.
Is that gonna be the size that you want it to be?
Yes, because I made it the size it needs to be.
Okay,
You're welcome.
thank you.
When I attributed it, just like I did the little item balloon, I made sure that the size was correct and the centering was correct and everything is okay. All right, the assignment drawing number is KIN, KIN space 255-2. The drawing scale is 1/4 inch space equals 1 inch. The first name is G. Truman. The month is April 5th, 2017. When I click OK, voila, bam, it's there. In paper space. Now if I printed this out, I would print 1:1. And because I used the page setup manager, if I go to plot, this pops up, continue to plot single sheet, that's what I want to do, so I'm going to say don't show me this again. I get my plot dialog box that pops up. It's already populated in the fact that I set this up with my page manager. It's the Canon, it's 17:22 NCC borderless, it's layout, it's 1:1, it's monochrome. I'm gonna preview, always preview before you plot, and I'm not actually gonna plot this, but I just wanna show you what it's gonna look like. So there it is. It's got the nice border because I set it up for the correct base point and 0, 0. It's got this all populated in all the right sizes. Now, in Paperspace, I can go in now and I can fill in the item number and the quantity and the description in Paperspace, which means that the text height is going to be 0.1, not 0.4. That's if I did it in model space. This is Paperspace. And it's not gonna go, if I go back to the model space, you're not gonna see the title block in your model space. It's now in Paperspace. And that's another way of doing stuff.
So when do you put your items in before your?
Well, let me show you in just a minute. So I'm gonna get in here a little closer. And, whoops. I think I'm in plot preview. Yeah, I gotta get out of plot preview here. Cancel on this. Alright, so I wanna make sure that I'm in the text tab, text layer. To put text in. Ooh, I don't want text to be red. Okay. And then I come in here and I do multi-line text, MT, and I pick this corner and I go height, H enter, 0.1, and I do justify, J, enter or spacebar, MC, and I come down here and I put in 1. Close text editor, spacebar. Once I set the height, I don't need to worry about the height, but I do need to do justification every time, J, spacebar, MC, spacebar, quantity, 1. Close text editor. Now, I don't want to do multi-line text and have it come right up here to the line. So what I might do is actually put a line in here or do something else. So if I do multi-line text, I'm going to object snap track over here a little bit, like a 1/16 of an inch. And then J, middle left is the justification, not middle center. And then come over here and come back, object snap track back a 1/16 of an inch because I don't want it to go clear over to the end. And then, what is item number 1? I think it was motor base. I'll just make it up here. So if I say motor base provided by others. That's how I center all this stuff up. Now, where's my drawing? Well, I have to create a viewport in order to look into the drawing to see back into model space. And that's where I'm going to set my drawing scale in my viewport. And in this drawing, there was a viewport layer that was created. Oops. Viewports. So I make that active because viewports will not print. It's a no print layer because I don't want that viewport line to show up in my plot. So that's my current layer. I come up to the command line and I type viewports. And I want to do a single. And I want to create where it is, so I'll click here. And I'll come like in here or maybe a little further over. And there's my drawing. Now, this is moving everything around, so once I create a viewport, I have to activate it by double-clicking the left mouse button in the viewport. That activates my viewport, then I can position this. Notice I have my item balloons in here. That's back in model space. It's not in paper space right now. And here's where I set my drawing scale. This is now my viewport drawing scale down here. Not my drawing scale in model space, but it's my viewport scale. So I'm going to come in here and find my 1 inch what quarter inch equals 1, which is a 1 to 4. Oh, man,
You have to add it, customize.
it's not in here, so I gotta add this in. I wanna call it 1 to 4. I want 1 paper unit and 4 drawing units. Okay. And then I'm gonna highlight that and click OK. So I actually have a 1 to 4. Did I work that right? Yeah, there's 1 to 1. There's 1 to 4. So there's my 1 to 4 drawing scale, so I position this around conveniently. I can deactivate my viewport by double clicking outside of it. If I go back to model space, no title block. If I go to layout, see this line here? That's on a layer that doesn't plot. So if I go back to my plot preview here, there's my drawing. With the title block, with the text, this is all 1 to 1 ratio here. This is a scale factor of 4 over in here in model space. If I wanted to, I could put item balloons in paper space. People do that. People dimension in paper space. They put item balloons. Personally, I would tend to do that in my model space, and then leave my paper space for my title block and doing all that 1 to 1. Because I kind of want to see my dimensions when I am in model space and I'm working in model space. If I want to adjust those, to me it's just a little more convenient that way. Alternate method. Either way works. For some people, this is a little more straightforward. For other people, they want to do everything in model space. Isn't it amazing? You're just totally blown away.
Indeed.
A, you're blown away because you're like, how am I going to remember all of that? It's on the video.
Yeah.
You can go back. As soon as I get it all situated so that I can get it up to YouTube, which I'm working on. Okay.